Yes.
Best of one.
I want the close, super tense team fight versus strategy. That's what I want.
I want team fight versus team fight, man.
That too.
So let's see with this game here, guys. Galio is being left open for now by G2 eSports. Unicorns also leaving Zyra up. Now, I think what you should do as Unicorns is you should look towards Trick and say, okay, Zach, Elise, and then Kha'Zix. Those are your 3 picks right now that we should be afraid of. We're not afraid of your Lee Sin at all. So either you take the Kha'Zix yourself or you just remove it. And you just say, you know what, Trick, what else can you play? Because we know Xerxes can play a million different champions that no one even realized exist in the game. And I think you can actually just go like, remove everything like they're doing now and then say, fine, is it the Lee Sin? Sure.
Ooh. So then you could put more pressure onto G2 as well to then try and get themselves an early jungler.
Yeah, but they shouldn't first pick jungler. They should go for the same first pick with Rumble. That's fine, because then they don't have to go into the Kennen pick. And then they just have to accept that they're going to play Olaf for Lee Sin, most likely, for Trick in the jungle.
So far, a very similar draft phase. The Kha'Zix ban, the major difference looks like Thresh will still be the first pick on the side of Unicorns and We'll see if they followed up with the Gragas as well. Keep the Gragas Thresh first rotation, or if they change things up here in Game 3. Already the bans have changed, the will of picks as well.
And right now we're seeing very similar things. As you rightly said, the biggest change that we're seeing is Kha'Zix, and will the priority be for Mithy to get himself on that Zyra? Because it was very feared from the side of the Unicorns.
And because of Zyra being open, that's why Unicorns are not just insta-locking Thresh. Because they are debating if they want to play that matchup or not. I think
Caitlyn Zyra is pretty rough.
That is a rough lane to deal with. Now, they are saying, you know what, let's do it. We think we can play against it. It can also be Tahm Kench now because Thresh is there. Tahm Kench was a fine pick against it last time.
I think it was perfect. It mitigated a lot of the strength during the laning phase of Samix and Hylissang as well. And it did give the freedom for Sven to play that Twitch.
And you always get a massive feels bad, man. When you ban a champion twice, you leave it open, you actually set them up to pick it, and they're like, yeah, we didn't even want to play it anyway. Like, we wanted the Tahm Kench, so thanks for that ban last time.
That's cool. Glad you guys have been throwing a ban away in the last 2 games, but it's not going to be the Twitch. This time around, it'll be the Caitlyn paired with the Tahm Kench. So a bit of a mix-up here on the side of G2 eSports.
So it denies a bit of a power lane for the bot lane of Unicorns of Love, but instead they're just going to pick up a different power lane, right? We have seen Samix and Hylissang love these all-in 2v2s, but the big point here is that G2 can now have the jungle pool pinched even harder, because we've already talked about how Trick, it does feel like that his most successful junglers have been the Kha'Zix and perhaps the Elise and the Olaf, but where else is he going to go with the options that he has?
Interesting, too, that we see. I'm curious about the Caitlyn priority, because the Twitch worked so well for G2 eSports. Why the mix-up here? Is it just to take it away from the Unicorns Love, or is this the preferred AD carry?
I think Caitlyn is the best AD carry right now, and it gives you a much safer laning phase. Like, yes, while, of course, Twitch did actually sit there and try and go even in farm, he was losing his tower. So he wasn't winning that lane. He was obviously going to give away a ton of gold to the enemy team. That's why I think Caitlyn is a better choice, or safer one. I like the Hecarim ban here. It was successful in game 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, Gragas can easily go to Xerxes in the jungle.
Interesting, too, because I like that they're taking away the engage options from the Unicorns of Love when they've already put so many in this composition. It's not the Caitlyn this time around, it is the Kalista, so that makes that dual lane even more threatening if Xerxes does decide to show up in the bottom side.
Yeah, I would actually love to see for top lane like a carry for Vizichachi, and then kind of the same playstyle where you try and gank for him early, and he takes over the lane and takes tower on his own. Gragas got ahead, but Gragas, because he didn't then get further ganks, didn't actually threaten the tower of G2 eSports up in the top lane. He just kind of said, yeah, I'm strong, guys, let's do something. Went bottom, kind of lost the game for his team, but I think Gragas jungle would allow Unicorns of Love to once again pack really great engage and then a carry top laner for Chachi, but there's a high chance he just takes the Gragas.
I don't think that that Gragas is going to go into the jungle, and I think that you also give a little bit more freedom to Trick to then also play that scaling jungler like the Olaf that we've been talking about so much, yet he is yet to bring out on his return to the European LCS, as we do see that final lock-in for the jungle pool, rather.
And despite the struggles in the mid to late game team fights the Xerxes experienced, they're still confident in the early game it brought to the table. Maybe just a difference in execution here this time around.
Gonna blind bake for perks. Taliyah, Orianna are the two you're normally looking at. I think Taliyah would work fine here with the Tahm Kench, so I actually quite like that if they lock it in.
Waiting, bated breath.
It's happening, don't worry.
1 point for Deficio. All right, Betty, it's your turn. Final pick. Go.
Final pick, that'll be jungle. Right now, they're lacking a little bit of an engage. They need a little bit of a front line. In terms of junglers that are available, I feel like they're going to go for the lead, but
Ivern might also be a
it's
good
cheating if it's on the screen.
It was on the screen. Okay, Vedius. All right, so it looks like it will be the
He made it all of us.
Man. All right. Get a little bit of NA flavor up here in Eden.
Yes.
A little precursor to Rift Rivals. Nidalee now coming in. This is an interesting one. Not one we've seen in a long time, but it looks like Trick was happy with the aggressive last time around.
All right, these final 2 picks are wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the Nidalee and what she offers. Really good wave clear, really good at getting in your face in the enemy jungle and stealing all your stuff.
Jungle clear, right?
Yeah, jungle clear, right? It really helps when you have pushing powerful lanes, because then when you have the priority, it makes invading all the more easier. And I'm excited to see how well Nidalee can do up against this Rek'Sai as well.
So you're saying that Nidalee is really happy that the enemy team picked Kassadin, because that means Kassadin is stuck under his tower, and Nidalee is just going to walk around him and say, well, I'm going to go in your jungle.
That would be the expectation.
We'll have to see.
The problem is, if you don't have that kind of early pressure, Kassadin can just freely farm into a matchup against Talia. That's one of his better matchups. And if he gets that Rod of Ages Zhonya's core, that is one terrifying mid laner that has an insane amount of mobility.
Bit of a clock now placed on the game with the Kassadin pick. Cannot let him scale up to that late game. We've seen it when it's in the hand of Splice. It can be terrifying, but this is it, folks. Your last chance to vote. Hashtag G2win, hashtag UOLwin, at LOL eSports on Twitter is the place.
I'm always biased. When I see a Kassadin, I'm kind of like, yeah, I want to see that Kassadin do well. Especially because...
Is there context there, or you're just like, I love Kassadin?
Well, it's more to the vote right there that I get a little bit biased when I see the Kassadin, despite him obviously having a lot of weaknesses. I just think on stage, actually quite often he ends up working because teams just don't cleanly snowball the games. But this series, we've seen some pretty good, finishes from these teams. When you get the advantage, you have actually been able to close it out very quickly.
Absolutely have. You can hear the Unicorns of Love chants. They're going to be starting on the red side. G2 on the blue. Eyes on the Nidalee in the early game. A big surprise here in the hands of Trix. We were wondering if it would ever come back, and today is indeed the day.
So for anyone that may be following the LCS, Mr. Mike Young, in addition to Phoenix One, he was the individual that brought out Nidalee. Had a lot of success recently against CLG, ended that game 9-2. And what he spent the vast majority of the game doing is literally sitting in the enemy jungle and stealing everything away from a Gragas. Now, Rek'Sai is a little bit more of an early game jungler. She definitely can trade a little bit more effectively, but it is just so difficult to trade against the small amount of sustain that Nidalee had, along with her just early game power that she has from her Cougar form.
And I'm curious, we wanted to see Trick maybe consolidate his champion pool, but it looks like widening it out hasn't been a bad choice for him. Is the Nidalee a potential risk here for G2?
Oh, well, there's always a lot of risk with the Nidalee.
For sure.
She's a snowball jungler. Like, if you do not get ahead in the early game and if you can't actually pressure, into the enemy jungle, you are so weak late on in the game. Like, your team fighting is very much sitting in the back, healing your AD carry, throwing long-range spears, and then hope you maybe can find that one guy who's kind of caught on his own and you can try and snipe him. So a lot of it is built around just being a sustain machine and not a big carry jungler. Now they're trying to make sure Trick gets the perfect start.
Ooh.
They're setting up everything for him. They are pulling the red buff here, making sure Trick can get it as fast as possible. He can actually invade the enemy blue buff now as well.
This is exactly what we wanted to see too.
This is a
what
fast
better
early
way to
jungle
start?
player.
He's going to go straight into the blue.
This ward is good from Unicorns, though. They're kind of reading it here, saying, okay, there's a chance this will happen. This means Xerxes also just took his Raptor camp, and he's actually going down. He's spotting Trick at the moment.
Have to get that away because we have to see the smites. Trick potentially in trouble, just going to leap over the walls. Xerxes throws it out. Spear goes wide. Next time now moving forward. Flash short from Hill saying he wants to start this off. Trick flash over the wall, goes in. Red buff regeneration, gonna keep Trick healthy, but oh, so close.
So the logic behind Trick's invade made a lot of sense. He knew that he had a very fast clear, he had the perfect pull from Sven and Mithy down the bottom lane, got a very fast level 2 with the red buff, and felt, with my clear speed, I can very easily steal away that blue buff. But the ward from the Unicorns of Love, spotting it out, denying that invade, and being able to react accordingly.
And with the jungle matchup mitigated for now, as Trick is going to have to back off and farm up. I want to put our eyes on the mid lane. Talia versus Kassadin. Right now, it looks like Perkz is dominating, but how is this one going to play out?
So, for any of you that have seen Apto, very talented Korean mid laner, this guy has talked a lot about how to play Kassadin during the laning phase, and the trick is to just use your Q aggressively, consistently onto your opponent. Never use it to farm, always use it to trade. Because if you're using it to farm, there's a big window with which the enemy knows you have nothing to trade back with. So it gives you a lot more pressure and it makes your laning phase a lot easier. And the thing about Talia is her priority in laning phase is to just wave clear. So often, Exile,
with it.
He's not following the advice of Apto. But because Talia's main focus is to prioritize wave clear and farming, it also gives Kassadin a lot more freedom to get up to that farm and just sit behind the minions and avoid some of the trading tools.
And we really have to keep following the mid lane because Exile, when he hits level 6, it's very easy for him to keep jumping on Talia, especially also with the Rek'Sai jungle, extremely powerful gank as we saw in the last game. It's gonna be possible for Unicorns to actually get early kills mid. We haven't seen that the last 2 games. Exile's been dying a lot. He's been ganked multiple times. Nidalee is not the ganking powerhouse. So it is harder for Trick to actually snowball a lane like we saw in the last game. And instead he's opting into the enemy jungle invades.
She might not be a ganking powerhouse, but she certainly has a lot of damage. So if the laners are there to set the Nidalee up, she can very quickly come in and just give the extra bit of damage needed to get a Nidalee kill.
She's trying to do top lane.
Has to be careful here. Spear does connect, now leaping forward. Vizicsacsi immediate flash out. I feel like a little disrespect there from Vizicsacsi. Knew that Nidalee was on the top side. Backs off though, just a flash traded. That's nice pressure down for Expect. He has struggled in both of the previous games in the early laning phase, but now getting a little bit more support from the team.
You can see that so far, G2, they have the advantage in mid. Pretty even down in the bottom lane. Credit to Samix and Hylissang, so trade happens once again.
Perkz getting aggressive, a lot of minion aggro on Exile. This could be dangerous, but he still has the flash available. Perkz. Predator volley comes out. Minion aggro swaps to the tower and saves Exile's life. The pot as well, keeping him healthy, but this is a good laning phase for Perkz.
That health pot doing a lot of work.
I mean, it's what you have to do against a pre-level 6 one.
Flash forward. Flame Spitter, trying not to get the tower aggro. Expect 2 tower shots returned. Vizicsacsi no flash. Bellybot forward. Keep your eyes on the
Expect! He tries to get the solo kill, ends up paying for it.
And that's just unacceptable. When you get a gank early, forces the enemy flash, you then greed for the kill. And you end up dying in return to this Gragas here.
Oh, hook goes forward. Tom Kench may just look to disengage here, but Samix is now on the hunt, pushing forward. Maybe going to take a lot of damage. Not going to be important, though. Focus back on the top side.
And obviously full credit to Vizicsacsi for how he's playing that 1v1, but right now Expect is letting his team down. Let's see what happens on the bottom side. Trick was looking for Xerxes in the jungle.
Keeping forward, high mobility here. Mithy maybe going to look to keep the fight going. Spear goes in, does connect on the Hylissang, but just a bit of poke. Maybe hoping to help pressure out the lane. Xerxes, though, on the bottom side means not a whole lot else can happen if G2 want to stay safe.
So, no 6-minute tower for G2 this time around. They still have a lot of the pushing threat, but they're holding their own as Xerxes hangs around. So let's see exactly how this 1v1 played out in favor of Chachi. So a lot of damage comes down, and the fact that the dash was used meant that Expect thought that, hey, I have enough burst damage here. And what he wants to do is, if he can just get these last 2 ticks, maybe it ends up being a kill, but he ends up taking 2 tower shots in return. He has no resistances this early on into the game.
And he also stops for minions on the way out.
He also stops for minions on the way out. Oops.
Now, of course, level 6 picked up for Perkz and Exile. This is a big break point in the game. Exile's so much safer now than he was prior.
I can just see how disappointed he is.
It's just also, it's like the worst feeling as a jungler. You're like, hey, there you go, man. I just gave you a massive advantage top lane. Use it, my friend. Get me something in return. And then you see your Rumble dying. Now Xerxes top against a no-flash Rumble.
And the first time that Expect was given an advantage on the top side, he immediately throws it away, and that has to feel bad for the team. Now keep our eyes on Hylissang, attempting the greedy roam, but read out by Mithy. Means he's going to have to burn flash.
So right now, G2, they know, okay, Xerxes, he wasn't around mid lane doing this little fight. We haven't seen him bot lane just yet. They're trying to actually get a ward down to find him. This means Expect is kind of sitting top and being like, I have no flash. I got ganked last time when that happened. Could happen again, and he actually reads the situation here well, meaning that Xerxes didn't manage to find anything, and now to see him on the wall.
Quite has to keep going. expect now throws down the ultimate, is going to clear out the way, but it's going to make it difficult to dive this tower. Now they have to be careful. Prey Seeker has been used. Ultimate, can he flash out the way? Nope, not an option. No flash available means down goes expect.
Important to note with the new Rek'Sai, you gotta hit the champion first before you can use your ulti on him. That's what happened mid lane though.
Exile backing off. Will be able to rift walk out of there shortly. Perkz desperate to get in that last little bit of damage. One proc on the threaded volley, not enough.
There's so many small things to talk about with this new patch. You know, again, we see obviously Rek'Sai being used more after some of the buffs. Land a Q first to make sure you can use your ulti from long range. I expect, obviously, realizing that at this point, he's already on the tower. He can't do much more.
I expect he does his best to just clear out the minion wave, but it's unfortunate. That is the additional damage that you do get from the change to Rek'Sai. Makes setting up that dive super easy for Xerxes, and we're seeing a repeat of what we saw in Game 2, an investment from Xerxes into the top side of the map. Hits that level 6 mark, and thanks to the solo kill that Chachi was able to get, we're now seeing Unicorns of Love with the early gold lead.
Things just look so good right now for the Unicorns of Love top side, but last time Expect was put in a deficit, Unicorns of Love threw it away on an aggressive play, so they need to keep their eye on the ball this time around. Can't afford to give anything up to the side of G2.
I mean, good thing for Unicorns is the fact that right now Exile is only slightly behind in the mid lane in terms of CS. He's hit, you know, at the point where he has ulti. He's currently 0-0-0, which compared to the last few games is a big change as well. Definitely looking better for Unicorns in the mid lane.
It goes in, Spear goes wide. That means Trick's gonna have a hard time diving it out. Nobody marked up. Samuxo still playing incredibly aggressive. Spear does not connect.
But this is going to guarantee in a tower because Perkz, he got the push in mid, he's roaming down to bot. With Trick there and the additional attack speed that he can give over to Sven, will guarantee that first tower blood as they meet in the mid lane.
Unraveled
He
Earth
could
there.
die.
Perkz has to be careful now, backing off. Seismic shove back. Good play by Perkz.
Important that he saves it for a defensive tool here, or as a defensive tool, knocking Kassadin away. This time around, though, we see Xerxes stay around top lane. He wants this tower.
Equalizer. Chachi stayed too long. No, the tower aggro again. Visit Chachi.
And just like in Game 2, the same play happens as we see a gank in mid.
Exile gonna have to pull back. A safety spear is not connected. That means the gank has to stop, but Exile still with hunger in his eyes. He wants that kill onto Perkz. Has the flash available. Perkz does as well. Barrier used immediately, and on the way is Hylissang. Trick slowed up, does just leap out to safety, but such a back and forth games and get a tiny gold advantage to G2.
2 times in a row, we've seen Chachi stick around underneath the tower. Rather than just focus on the objective, he tries to get the kill. He ends up giving away his life. It's identical to what we're seeing in Game 2.
He got baited by his jungler as well right there, because Xerxes, he was tanking tower, so he instantly stepped away when the last minion died. And Chachi clearly felt like the call was finish the tower, because new minions were also arriving, and maybe if Xerxes had actually stayed to hit it, they could have killed it. Or maybe Chachi should just, you know, instantly walked away and not even risked potentially dying. This now means G2 eSports with the tempo advantage on the swap top lane, getting damage on that tower, already killed the bottom one as well.
And note as well, Perkz moving to the bottom lane to just delay the push coming out from Samex and Hylissang, and because he has his ulti, he can quickly translate back up into the mid lane as well.
Expects ulti is up very soon if he wants to use it. Trick is going a bit low here. Will obviously be able to heal himself, but he's fell low in mana as well. It's a
fatty hit from the Rift Herald.
playing it risky. Playing it risky.
But knows a lot of members are committed on the bottom side for Unicorn, so this will be the uncontested Rift Herald in the end. Very little put into this, just a bit of time from the jungler.
And a lot of what we see right here is due to the fact that obviously Kassadin is getting pushed in mid lane. Now this time it was also Expect joining. That gives G2 full access to the river. At the same time, with the play that happened top lane, they could actually push with Caitlyn Time Kench to the tier 1 tower, opening up this safe, I call it safe despite him almost dying, but technically a Rift play he could go for. Let's see what happens here.
Not so safe for Expect. He's going to get knocked up. He's going to get knocked down. No options to escape. But Trick is still looking for a little bit of a kill. Weaver's wall buys him a bit of time. Xerxes goes in, goes out. Not looking to commit on that one. And Hylissang and Vizichachi just waiting off to the side as Vizichachi holds on to top side. Now Exile returns to mid.
And quick reflexes there from Xerxes as well as Exile, he jumps in, but he has the support from his support, which means that UOL will be able to get themselves a tower, a kill, and a little bit more control back over the game. So Unicorns of Love definitely demonstrating that they're not going to back down without a fight. They still sit on the gold lead, the kill lead, and things still looking positive for the Unicorns of Love.
Both teams seemingly eager to fight, but also happy to trade turrets here. Gold still just about dead even 13 minutes of the game. Small boon in the favor of Unicorns of Love, and surprisingly even going into the mid game.
Well, we need to see this Rift Herald here from Trick being used around the mid lane to get the last outer turret. Always want to push a Kassadin as far back on the map as possible because he can't really defend his turrets properly, and you can then further kind of take over the game. But the fact that Unicorns now have a farmed up Kassadin who's level 9 with Rod of Ages completed, and he hasn't died yet, is a very good sign for them in terms of the late game, because we know Kassadin is a monster later on, and very few members on G2 eSports are actually tanky enough to kind of survive his late game.
In many ways, G2 eSports rather playing against the clock right now. Cannot let Exile get to that late game status. Luckily they have a Caitlyn as they go further into the late game, but no tanks here to protect their back line.
Which is quite interesting, right? Because when you look at the comps, you think, oh, they have a Kalista. Typically known as more of an early game snowballer, trying to get that early lead, use that early itemization advantage to try and force these plays, but they're also waiting for the Kassadin to reach a point where he has more value in the late game. It's a little bit of a skirmish, kicks off in the mid.
Fate's Call comes back, says no to that engage, but G2 are ready to pressure out. Rift Herald still not summoned, Trick gonna back off to make sure he's safe before he brings it out. Release now from the eye, it's just gonna charge right down that mid lane, should be able to delete that tower. Maybe they'll look to take a second one as well, because Kassadin's just committed to the bottom side.
I mean, this setup here from G2 is just, it's super standard with the Rift Herald. They push out top lane, they roam into mid lane with multiple members, so Vizicachi is stuck wave playing up in one lane. Kassadin can't really assist you in the mid lane unless you want to fight. So he'd already gone to the bottom lane to make sure he can pick up farm, and that just allows G2 to get a very easy mid lane turret here, and that means now all 3 other turrets are gone. It is going to be harder and harder to play the 1-3-1 with Taliyah when you are against Kassadin, but for now they can do it.
I think that the fact that the map is now opened up for Unicorns actually benefits that Kassadin greatly, because he's just constantly soaking in this farm. And it's that 2 items that really snowballs the Kassadin into a really powerful point. Now, often you see slight variations. Some choose to go for a Lich Bane second, whereas others choose to go for Zhonya's. And if you're looking to teamfight a little bit more, Zhonya's is the better bet, because it means you can dive in, go golden, buy a little bit more time for your cooldowns, and then repeat the process, maybe get back out if you need to.
And no matter what you build, as you get more and more levels in that Rift Walk, it gets more frustrating. But I want to take a chance to look at the jungle, because we talked about what would happen if this Nidalee fell behind. The answer was nothing. That's not going to be important because Exile looking for a bit of a fight here. We'll bait out the ultimate. We're back on topic. Nidalee down a significant amount of CS in the jungle. 2-0 now the score for Xerxes. What can Trick do to get back in this game?
I mean, at this point, he's really just joining his team as a bit of a heal bot,
right?
Yeah, sieger and a heal bot in fights where you wanted to try and land the long-range spears, but again, it's not very effective when you are not able to constantly pressure the enemy jungler. Rek'Sai as a pick is really strong early game, as we've highlighted multiple times already, and once Unicorns made sure, you know, level 1, we know where he's going, he's not going to steal my blue buff, well then suddenly Xerxes has actually been able to just play a super easy game where he's not been pressured by Nidalee at all.
And bear in mind the item investment the Trick is likely to make. So usually when you're behind, you take a long time to build a very expensive build, which is conventionally a Rod of Ages and a Zhonya's, because Nidalee, she has a very huge early game impact. She sets up the laners and then she relies on them value later as Hellsang goes for a flash.
Oh, nice. Net flash out. Sven giving a lot of respect to predict on the hook. Does make it to safety.
I really want to see Athene's from Trick. I think it really buffs up what he's actually doing late game in terms of his overall, you know, healing coming in. Also adding a little bit extra AP to his build for at least some damage. But it is a tough situation to be in if you are Trick at the moment. And Xerxes, 1 level up, strong on this Rek'Sai. Is obviously not the strongest team fighter himself. We saw that last game as well. Like, it is hard as a Rek'Sai to really have massive impact in fights. Your knock-up, again, is only 1 target at the moment, not like we used to see where you can get up multiple guys. Luckily, he has some pretty farmed carries this time around.
And what I love about Xerxes playing this Rek'Sai too is the way in which he utilizes that ultimate, because so many times I sat there and thought, oh, Xerxes dead. But no, he's actually just gone untargetable while channeling his ultimate. And it's fascinating the way in which he soaks up all this damage and then at the last second uses that ulti, gets a burst of damage off, forces maybe a summer spell, forces them to retreat. And maybe he loses his life, but that can be very impactful in swinging a fight in your favor.
So right now, if we look at the map and the setup, it is pretty tricky for G2 to kind of further snowball, because there is no auto turret to go for. There's no Rift Herald, there's no Baron yet. You're kind of lacking an objective to play around, at this stage of the game. You're just trying to play 1-3-1 split push, but you can't really kill the Kassadin easily in that side. And so Trick just trying to go down for some pressure, but you're going to lose some of these trades.
Perk's not going to have to back off. Exile hungry for a bit of blood here. Threaded Volley comes out. Perks knows if he runs, he will die, so has to stick around to dish out a bit of damage.
Love the respect there from Exile. Was very aware that Trick was hanging around the bottom lane.
The reason Trick is here is because he wants Perks to push out the lane and then be able to roam to mid lane. That's a way for G2 to create a numbers advantage, and that's what they're looking for right now.
Oh, Samix and Hill are saying they took the bait. They saw the opportunity for a fight. Now Samix is going to run. Tongue Lash still
Smart.
connects. But the safety of this duo lane is legendary. Going to be a lot harder than that to shut these guys
I
down.
feel like the setup there was very promising, but the response from the rest of G2 not quite as fast as they would have wanted. No flash on Hylissang meant that could have been a key target for them to very quickly shut down, but they don't utilize the Tahm Kench ultimate. They don't find themselves a pick.
We're seeing a lot of the same patience and execution that we saw from the Unicorns of Love in Game 1. The Unicorns that we wanted to see improvement, not going for the greedy plays on the side lane in the case of Exile. Both Samix and Hylissang maybe a bit greedy, but getting out in the end. And it's a good look for the Unicorns right now.
And we just saw one of the few setups for G2 at the moment without other objectives on the map here. You know, it is allow this Talia to push, get her to roam mid, make a play with TP, try and force a team fight. It is extremely difficult to do at this point in the game, and you're kind of giving it another 4 to 5 minutes. And then you can say, okay, now finding the objectives we can play around. Infernal Drake, Baron, try and force a team fight before Kassadin gets full late game. It is extremely risky, and they're actually also respecting Exile's roam here.
And it's going to be tough because Exile's getting aggressive onto Perks. Throws out the threaded volley, does get knocked back. Nice prediction from Perks, but immediately saved. And half of Perks' health is simply deleted. And what's brutal about this point in the game is we talk about, you know, Caitlyn, a little bit of that power trough. Well, Callista, she's hitting one of her strongest points when she finishes that Runaan's, and Kassadin similarly, just getting stronger and stronger. Things feeling a little grim for G2.
And we're approaching that classic 20-minute mark from the Unicorns of Love where they suddenly turn on, they're ready to fight. They know that as a 5-man unit right now, they're feeling pretty good, so they should be able to easily take down this tier 1.
No one can approach, there's no safe wave clear. All the ground has been worked, but the fight looks like it may get started off anyway. Teleport coming into the backside. Where's the equalizer? It is what G2 needs, but it may be too little too late. Expect goes wide, gets knocked up. The chain CC comes in. He does not have the items to stay safe, but Mithy has gonna keep going. That's explosive. The engage comes in. Xerxes hungry for blood. Out comes the ult. Die, 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 he says. Makes it look clean.
Massive 4 for 0 going in the favor of Unicorns of Love. 20 minutes comes around. There's a Baron on the cards, and Unicorns have just blown this game wide open.
Oh, baby, Unicorns of Love. They got everything they could ever hope for right there. Not only did they take down the mid lane tower, they were still just scaling as well. And when G2 tried to actually fight back, well, their composition is just not very strong right now. We see, of course, the Nidalee not adding a lot of value. Expects ulti was awful, and suddenly you get a massive fight for Unicorns of Love.
And Ramah said the Unicorns came ready for war, and they are stepping up here in Game 3. Just look at this fight. Such fantastic execution.
Now G2, rather than concede the tower, they feel like they're in a position where they can actually force something, and Mithy is their sort of engage tool, where he just walks up and is immediately forced to flash out. So Expect is effectively left out to try and watch Chachi. The immediate disengage ultimate to keep the rest of G2 away from Expect. Ooh. And then they just group up as a multi-man unit for Chachi to then get the body slam off. Beautiful fight from him, redeeming his early mid plays.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, gentlemen, we can be critical of those tower plays, but when it comes to team fight, Viza Chachi is second to none.
And we just gotta look at G2 right here. And I said the ulti was bad from Expect, but honestly, how are you ever gonna keep people in place?
Yeah.
Like, who is actually setting up the fight in advance so that Expect can land that great ulti? No one, because you have Nidalee, Tahm Kench, Talia, Caitlyn. All 4 of them are standing in the back of the fight, and no one is actually helping the Rumble land that great ulti.
And so many times it feels like G2 are always drafting these difficult to play compositions, and in the early game you always start to see promise, but then Unicorns have the kind of comp that says we're gonna press our go in buttons, and they sure as hell do go in, and they always seem to find the fights going in.
And now it just gets worse and worse, because we already talked about the scaling that will be in favor of Exile on a side lane. Lichbane, Rod of Ages, he doesn't even want the zone you're talking about. He's not even worried about it, Vedius. He does so much damage here, and now you can see how great of a lead UOL has.
7 stacks on his Dark Seal as well, and he has 2 of them as Unicorns of Love continue their push down on the bottom lane with Baron buff minions primed and ready to siege.
Sadly, having 2 of them for him Doesn't double.
It doesn't double, unfortunately.
You still only get
not
for one.
double.
It
But
would be
looks
6 though.
good.
Man,
It looks good.
Stack them Dark Seals, 10 on all of them.
Technically, he has 14 Dark Seal stacks right now.
Technically.
Of course, now Unicorns of Love, they're going to reap the spoils of war here, picking up the Infernal Drake, making it even easier to push forward into this game.
And really, again, we were just talking about how GG were lacking objectives on the map to kind of play around. They were trying to push out that lane against the Kassadin and then maybe see if we can go and, you know, make a play in the mid lane. Sadly, it's just difficult because the Kassadin could just jump Talia every time. As soon as Trick wasn't there, well, Exile would get to push his lane out. He roamed mid first. They got that tower into a perfect fight. So at this point, the game is just almost impossible to win for G2 Esports unless, well, classic X and Sven basket.
Yes, Sven,
50-minute kind of thing.
You're just going to stall it out.
If the Nidalee builds an Athene's, which there's a Fairy Charm there, so we might see it, they could sort of protect Sven.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of, like, once you're behind going for a Rod of Ages, it's only got 1 stack on it.
23 minutes.
That's rough. Really, really rough for Trick. Not able to get that early snowball.
And your main protection, the Tahm-Kench Devour, actually stops Sven from dealing damage, so you're not really killing anyone in return. At this point, G2 Esports just have to accept that they have gotten a bit outscaled, and now they're trying something.
Oh, here comes the Weaver's Wall. Hylissang can be saved. Perkz potentially in trouble. Does get knocked back, does get flayed back. The damage just keeps on coming, but Mithy says no for now. Not today, Unicorns of Love.
Chachi is playing fantastically this game, getting so many clutch ultimates. He definitely made a mistake early on with the tower dive, but able to get the kill onto Expect, finding so many great plays, really stepping up as a flash comes out from Hilly.
Not going to connect in the end. They're going to have to be careful here, though. Sven's still alive and well on the back line. Exile leaping forward. They're taking a lot of damage, but the tower is what's in the Unicorns of Love sights. Not going to get it, however. Vizicachi still taking a lot of poke. Mithy aggressive on the front line, but the fight not going to happen.
So there is that one avenue for G2 to come back in, which is the over-eager Unicorns. When they see the tower, they certainly feel like we have a goal lead, we can go for the fight, and then they seem to stay underneath the tower a little bit too long. Fortunately, this time around, they didn't lose their lives, but there's still that possibility.
You gotta go for that flash hook.
Yeah.
You can just feel it. Like you're seeing it in front of you. You are making that play.
He sees the moment, you know?
He sees the moment.
Just like Mithy and Sven see the moment, but I don't know if they're going to be able to catch a Kassadin.
He could jump away. Oh, he's jumped away.
Nothing ventured, nothing
wow,
gained.
he escaped. He's a Kassadin.
Hashtag mechanics, folks. I've actually seen this recall. Glad we took a second to watch after.
Well, we're
this.
kind of waiting for everyone else to get back on the map, so come on guys.
And here's the thing, right, is that maybe G2 think, hey, we beat the Blessing, we beat the Curse. Now, clearly not. You're not going to get a chance.
Hey, on the bright side, G2 are the Game 2 gods, winning a lot of their second games, but then it always seems like that they struggle in that final one. And I feel like just thinking back to how the early game played out when looking at this Talia, it's so dangerous playing up against the casting, because you have one of two options, which is you shut down that casting, you camp him hard, and you make him redundant, or you use Perkz to snowball your side lanes. Expect died in the top lane, Sven was prioritizing farming, and other than that, we are yet to see much come out from Perkz on this Talia in the mid.
I mean, we did have a pushing bottom lane in favor of G2 early. We had the pushing mid lane from Perkz as well, and Trick didn't really manage to utilize any of that to actually get an advantage. Not purely blaming Trick here, I'm just saying, like, as a team, they did not manage to get any advantage around the Kassadin, other than that mid lane tower they took down with the Rift Herald. But at that point, they'd already allowed Exile to hit level 9 or 10. And it was just simply too slow.
And as we talk about the strategy or the lack thereof from G2, maybe some mistakes in the early game, Unicorns of Love just continued to extend their lead here. We saw so many resources committed to Exile on the bottom side. Didn't even need to talk about it, though, because it was overforced. Once again, the Kassadin just manages to leap out. Exile with the tools to escape this time around will not be punished, cannot overextend on this pick. And, well, Ramar's going to war, and it looks like he's having a good time doing it there, as you see Sheepy's face in the background.
Unicorns of Love playing a beautiful 1-3-1, good vision investment on the top side. They're lacking on the bottom, but they're still able to get the objectives that they wanted without any real consequences. And they just continue the pressure. Now, Baron, 40 seconds. It's definitely in the favor of Unicorns. Right now, their investment and vision is not great, but they need to go back, restock the wards, get a few more control wards. And Samux, commonly known as the shield bearer, for not really selling the Doran shield. Instead of keeping that spot open, he's decided that he's got a dagger instead. I would argue that a control might be a little more valuable, but you've got 3 on Hylissang, and you still have a little bit of vision coming out from Xerxes as well. So,
Exile doing a lot of damage there. Ace in the hole comes out just to dissuade any further aggression, but when Mithy is not around, Sven incredibly vulnerable here, and you can see 3 items now, but only a single attack speed item, having to get some armor penetration very early on with that Lord Dominix, and Unicorn's Love, seemingly out of nowhere, just immediately start this Baron.
Well, they do have the Callista as well, which means that taking this Baron is all the more easier, but G2, they're too far away. It looks like they're not going to challenge.
I realize it's just going to cost them even more kills if they do that. And they just simply give it over to Unicorns of Love. So perfect opportunity to set up your 1-3-1 again with the Kassadin winning his lane. He's 2 levels above the Talir at this point. He's hit the moment where he gets a little bit scary because your mid laner suddenly gets a massive ego. He's like, guys, I'm Kassadin level 16. I'm not behind. I will 1v9 this game.
Yeah, it goes from Kassadin to Castle Win. Things certainly get difficult.
There we go.
As we see it.
Oh, Perks.
Oh, he's dead.
No, there's nothing you can do. The red buff is ticking too. Leap forward. He's going to try to make it out. The heal comes in. Oh, Exile. Wait, he's just going to pick up another one.
Yep.
Burn down.
Oh.
Goodbye. Oh,
hello,
Kassadin. Exile's going off. Unicorns of Love are going in. They get the Baron, and they may just win the game. They take out 2 members. They may just push forward for more.
And it looks like that the Unicorns of Love will finally break their own curse. It was 17-4 in favor of G2 at the start of this series, but now UOL may finally win their first.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The final push onto the next is G2. What hope do they have to hold on? Sven now in trouble. Mithy not there to save him. Xerxes pulled in, but this is it, folks. 1 tower standing in their way. The Nexus in their sights for the first time in the history of EU LCS. Unicorns of Love take down G2 in a best of series.
Nice ad.
Nice ad.
There. Man, we talked so much about Exile before the game, you know, coming into this series. We mentioned how he's struggling, he gets ganked, he plays over aggressive. He did it in game 1, did it in game 2, but game 3, with this Kassadin here, much safer early game. Did not go for any over aggressive plays. Actually managed to get to a point where he was strong enough to then take the duels, and then he ends it, you know, with getting that double kill in the top lane.
And in that game 3, sure, definitely a lot of praise warranted for Exile. His improvement was fantastic, but for me, Xerxes was the man that performed outstandingly in every single game. Whether it be his early game impact, his engages with the Hecarim, this man was just living up to the expectations that he has risen to himself.
And the thing is, even in that game that they did not win, he made massive impacts every single early game. The Hecarim game, we can argue, he carried the Rek'Sai, he got the ball rolling, and once again, he did it in game 3. A nearly immaculate performance coming in from this guy in the jungle, and he just seems to rise up the totem pole of EU junglers every time we see him play.
Well, very good win for Unicorns of Love, doing what other teams have now managed to do against G2 Esports. This truly is the time to take down G2 Esports. That cursed monkey paw, biting them again a certain place. And it's hard to kind of pinpoint, you know, like 1 or 2 reasons for why G2 Esports just can't perform, but it's just a lot of small things adding up.
Yeah.
And we brought up Trick and the difference in champion pool. He likes to bring so many different things to the table, and the Kha'Zix was amazing, but the Nidalee feels like it just fell flat, and we have to wonder if G2 just maybe need to iron out their pick ban strategy, figure out what's going to work reliably rather than what's going to work, you know, in the moment.
I do feel that the draft is a core component of some of the issues that we are seeing right now from G2. We've always said about G2 they're slow to adapt to the patch, but I don't even know if you can say that about this, like right now. Like, sure, we're on 7.12, but the meta shouldn't have shifted so much from 7.11 to 12 that you should be struggling to know what junglers your jungler is strong on. And like, I still think back to like the Olaf we're yet to see come out from him. We're yet to see some great performances on the Lee Sin, and sure, he had a great Kha'Zix game, but...
And you're going deeper into the pool, Vedius. You're bringing up Olaf, but like Lee Sin has been available. And when we look back historically, like Graves was a great pick for Trick, sure, but Gragas, Lee Sin, these are 2 huge picks that he single-handedly won games on in seasons past for G2.
Yeah, and obviously some of those problems gave quite a big advantage to Unicorns of Love in this draft because Xerxes had so many picks, even bring out the new Rek'Sai, introducing that obviously among some other junglers. We've seen it in LCK already on 7-11. So it's really a lot easier sometimes for a sheepy to be like, okay, what am I drafting in the jungle? Let's see, I have this pick. Oh, this pick kind of works here. I guess I can go for this pick. Like, they're saving his picks for later now to get priority picks early.
And when it's so reliable, why wouldn't you? And of course, we do have an interview with Xerxes coming up. We are going to give him a little bit more time to get ready for that. But in the meantime, it just seems like Unicorn... We're criticizing G2 for drafting these crazy things in the jungle because it hasn't worked for them. But on the opposite side, Unicorns are the example where it can work when you know exactly what your jungle is going to do and when you've practiced so many of these odd picks.
And on top of these crazy picks, we're also seeing a little bit more diversity in their strategy. That final 1-3-1 played out by the Unicorns of Love. Sure, it came off the back of a big fight, but the way in which they closed out that game was clean and beautiful.
Definitely was. Well, Unicorns of Love took the series with a clutch victory in Game 3.